You're tuning in to Creepy Time, where we bring you chilling, creepy stories and eerie urban legends every day at 6 p.m. To support Creepy Time, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss the story together. Now let's dive into today's tale. Strange rules for forest rangers. Have you ever taken a job that felt too good to be true? A salary so high it made your chest flutter? Mine was $5,000 a month to sit in a tower, watch a forest, report anything strange. No prior experience required. I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know I'd be counting my nights like a prisoner. I didn't know I'd be fighting to keep my mind and my life. 100 days. 5 rules, 1 forest that does not belong to us. It was a Wednesday night. Rain streaked down my apartment windows in Seattle like veins on cracked glass. My power had been flickering all day, and the Wi-Fi dropped out every 10 minutes. I was jobless, broke. My last paycheck was 2 months ago. Debt collectors had started sending real letters-thick envelopes with legal stamps. That's when I saw it. A job listing on an obscure forum I didn't even remember joining. Urgent hiring, forest ranger, $5,000 month, housing provided, work alone, quiet environment, no experience necessary. At first, I thought it was a scam, but then I clicked. No forms, just an email address and 1 sentence. Reply if interested. Interviews Thursday morning downtown. The address was familiar, a generic old office tower in the financial district. I figured, hell, what do I have to lose? I replied. The next morning, I stood in front of an elevator that smelled like mildew and hot dust. The office was on the 11th floor. When the doors opened, I walked into an empty lobby. No receptionist. Just a door labeled OFP, Forest Division. Inside was a single man, middle-aged, crisp black suit, short gray hair. He didn't smile. He didn't even stand up. He asked me 3 questions. How old are you? Do you have any family or dependents? Can you work in complete isolation for 100 days? That was it. No mention of skills, qualifications, or previous jobs. Just those 3. I said yes. He handed me a thick envelope. Your contract. Read it before tonight. If you agree, sign and return. You'll be picked up Friday morning, 5 a.m. sharp. Before I could ask a single question, he turned away. The interview was over. At exactly 5 a.m. Friday morning, a black Jeep with government plates pulled up outside my apartment. The driver was a silent man in his 60s with silver hair and dark eyes. He didn't say a word as we drove, not once. The city faded into mist. Roads turned to gravel, then gravel turned to winding paths through dense evergreens. Hours passed. I lost phone signal. Then the forest swallowed us whole. Eventually, we stopped at a tall, rusted gate, guarded by thick pine trees and a sign in fading red paint. Olympic Forest Preserve authorized personnel only. The driver finally spoke. Welcome to your new home. Then he left. I turned and saw him, a tall, rugged man with a brown ranger jacket, unshaved beard, and tired eyes. Tom, he said, extending a gloved hand, been here 3 years. I introduced myself. He gave me a quick tour of the watchtower. Steel frame, 30 meters high, full view of the canopy below. Inside, 1 bed, a small kitchen, 2-way radio, electric lanterns, a notebook, and a single piece of laminated plastic on the table. It had 5 rules printed in bold red ink. Tom's face turned serious. These aren't guidelines, he said. They're survival rules. Break one and you might not come back. I read them aloud. Rule 1. Never leave the designated zone after 10:06 p.m. Rule 2. If you hear strange sounds, shut all doors and cover your eyes for 10 minutes. Rule 3. No photos, no recordings, ever. Rule 4. If you see blue lights, report immediately and stay at least 200 meters away. Rule 5. Never investigate the source of any sound, no matter what you think you hear. I tried to laugh, but Tom didn't. He just looked at me and said, "Follow them and you live. That's it." As we settled into the tower, another voice echoed from the stairs. A young woman in green overalls entered, holding a crate of food supplies. "Cammy," she said, "I handle logistics and supply runs. Welcome to paradise." Her tone was sarcastic, the kind that only makes sense when you've seen too much. Suddenly, a crackle came from the radio. "Tom, we got a new one?" "Yeah, he's up here." "Good. Just remind him curiosity kills more than cats out here." "That's Jine," Tom whispered. "Tech supervisor. Lives in the bunker downstairs." "Bunker?" But Tom just shook his head. "You'll learn, but remember, don't go looking for things, especially at night." That first night, the forest was so quiet it screamed. I could hear the echo of my own heartbeat as I stared out the observation window. At 9 p.m., the forest changed. The air turned colder, thicker, heavier. Then, far in the distance, a sound. Not an animal, not wind. It was humming, mechanical, rhythmic. I remembered Rule 2. Cover your eyes, stay inside, 10 minutes. I dropped to the floor, pulled a blanket over my head, counted in silence. At minute 8, I heard it. A knock at the steel door. Then a voice. "Hello, I'm lost, please. I'm bleeding, help me." My skin went cold. The voice was human, desperate, male. "Please, it's dark. I don't know where I am." I nearly stood up, but then I remembered Rule 5. Never investigate sounds, no matter what you think you hear. I stayed down. The knocking stopped at minute 10. I didn't sleep that night. When I opened my eyes, the tower was filled with cold gray light. My body ached and my mind was still fogged by the fear from the night before. Tom was already up. He stood at the kitchenette, silently pouring thick black coffee. "You made it through the first night," he said flatly, handing me a chip mug. "That's better than some." I chuckled awkwardly, but he didn't return it. "Did you hear that voice?" I asked. "Yeah." "Then what the hell was it?" "Something that knows how to pretend." I waited for more, but all he said next was, "Rule number 5 exists for a reason. Don't break it." He left the tower shortly after, saying he had to check the perimeter. For the rest of the morning, I stayed inside. Every creak made me jump. I reread the rules a dozen times. By day 3, I began to settle into the routine. Sleep at 6 a.m., wake at 2 p.m., light meals with Kami, tech checks with Jean over the radio, then begin the night shift at 6 p.m. But night never felt normal. Every night at exactly 9 o'clock, it began the noises. Not animals, not wind, sounds that mimic machines, metal scraping, hydraulic hissing, deep rhythmic thuds like the heartbeat of something monstrous beneath the soil. I began keeping logs in the notebook. Day 3, 9:15 p.m., metallic knocking, rhythmic. Day 4, 9:30 p.m., high-pitched whine followed by static. Day 5, 9:22 p.m., heavy footsteps near tower, no visible presence. Day 6, 9 o'clock sharp, whistling human-like. Each sound seemed closer than the last, but nothing ever showed up, nothing I could see. By day 6, my curiosity overpowered my fear. I told Tom I wanted to see the monitoring system downstairs. He hesitated. Jane doesn't like visitors. Still, that evening, I made my way down the spiral metal staircase to the underground bunker, something I hadn't known existed when I accepted the job. The air was colder, smelled faintly of chemicals and ozone. Jean greeted me without turning from his monitors. 10 kilometers of forest, 93 cameras, 4 drones, no satellite connection, full blackout zone. He showed me a digital map, red dots marked event points, most of them clustered near the tower. We monitor everything. That doesn't mean we understand everything. I asked him if he believed the rules actually protected us. He turned and stared at me, dark circles under his eyes. Do I believe they keep us safe? Number. I believe they keep something else safe from us. Late that night, I took a short walk around the base of the tower still inside the safe zone. That's when I saw them. Footprints. Not human, too big, too strange. Each print had 4 long toes with deep claw marks. The stride was longer than any human's. The trail led toward the tower and then stopped, just vanished, as if something had walked right up to the steel foundation and disappeared into thin air. I photographed them instinctively, then froze. Rule number 3, no photos, no recordings. My hands trembled. I deleted them immediately, but the image wouldn't leave my mind. Tom grew quieter each day. He'd always been stoic, but now there was something else, paranoia. He kept checking his watch, avoiding windows, jumping at small sounds. One afternoon I asked him, "You okay?" "I'm fine." "You seem on edge." After 3 years here, you'll learn to live on edge. It's the only way to survive. He finally admitted something. We're not rangers. Then what are we? Guards of something. What do you mean something? Not ready for that yet. That night, during my shift, I heard it again. The voice. "It's me, Jean. I'm hurt. I need help, please." Same tone, same cadence, perfect mimicry. Only this time it came through the radio. Not the forest, not the door. The radio crackled back to silence before I could respond. I called Jane directly. No answer. I called Tom. He picked up immediately. "You heard it again?" "It was on the radio." "I know." His voice cracked slightly. "Don't respond. Don't acknowledge it. Don't speak." This is where I began to question everything. The rules weren't just arbitrary, they were reactive. Something or someone had tested them before, paid for it. But what were we guarding? Why isolate us with no outside contact? Why so much money? I remembered stories of Cold War black sites, experiments hidden in national parks. I'd laughed at them once. Now I wasn't so sure. On day 10, I crossed a 200-meter perimeter, briefly just a step, just to feel the edge. The trees were wrong. Too symmetrical, too quiet, no birds, no insects. It felt like the forest was holding its breath. I backed away quickly. The air tasted metallic. That night, Tom didn't speak to me, just stared as I climbed into bed, his jaw clenched. The line between fear and obsession is thin. By day 11, I wasn't just afraid anymore, I was curious. That night, I did what I told myself I wouldn't do. At 9 p.m., when the sounds began, I did not cover my eyes. I turned off the tower lights, crouched by the window, and watched. And I saw it. Not a creature, not a person. A light, a pulsing orb, neon blue, floating just above the ground about 300 meters away. As it moved, it left no shadow, no sound. Then it stopped and turned. I swear though, it had no face. I could feel it looking at me. And then it blinked out. Gone. Just like that. The next morning, the radio blared. Tom's voice, tight with anger. "Did you break rule number 2? I hesitated. Just watched for a second. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just said, "You may have been seen. Pray they weren't interested." Then he hung up. That afternoon, Cammie arrived with supply crates. She usually stayed for 10 minutes at most. This time, she lingered. "Tom told me," she said quietly, "about the blue light." I asked her what it was. She shook her head. "No one knows, but people don't come back from chasing it." "People?" "Yes, the ones before you." Then she dropped a bomb. "You're the 7th ranger in the last 15 months. I felt cold. What happened to them? Some quit, some disappeared. One walked out into the woods during a shift. We found what was left of him days later." What was left? Just his boots. She said no more. The radio silence was deafening. Jean hadn't checked in for 2 days. Tom insisted he'd gone down to fix a power relay near the northern ridge. But I didn't believe him. His eyes gave it away, the way his voice cracked when he said Jane was fine. So that night, I broke another rule. I waited until just before dawn and followed a maintenance path near the old comms post. There, I found a hole, perfectly circular, about 3 meters deep, lined with synthetic polymer. It looked mammoth, not natural. And at the bottom, a torn scrap of white fabric, lab coat fabric, and beneath it, a dark smear, blood. I recognized the embroidered initials JL, Jane's bulb. I backed away, shaking. When I told Tom, he didn't respond for a long time. Finally, he said, "We're not alone out here." That night at exactly 9:06 p.m., I followed the rules again. I shut the door, I sat with a blanket over my head. Then came the knock. "It's me, Jean. Please, I'm bleeding. Open up." The voice was perfect. Same rasp, same tone, but something was off. It repeated the same sentence, exactly 3 times. Not once did it say my name or respond when I whispered, "How do I know it's you?" I didn't move. Then, screaming, "Open up, I'm dying." The voice changed, distorted, lower, almost inhuman. The walls of the tower groaned like something was dragging claws across the outside. Then silence. Tom finally told me the partial truth. We were not here to protect the forest. We were guarding what lay beneath it. He used the word biotech. Something about experiments, old Cold War contracts, projects meant to create hybrid organisms for warfare. Jean knew too much, he muttered. "And now?" I asked. "Now, something is using his voice." Over the next few nights, I gathered clues. Surveillance logs from the control bunker showed video glitches near the tower. Movement sensors registered entities with 4 limbs, but no heat signature. One camera caught an open gate on the south end despite being locked for years. Then I remembered something Jane once said. They built more than you see. So I searched, and I found it. At the edge of the western ridge, hidden behind camouflage mesh and artificial trees, was a massive steel door embedded in rock. 10 meters high, rusted, but recently used. Tire tracks, boot prints, and a faint hum like a generator beneath the soil. I knew I should turn back, but I didn't. Inside was not wilderness. It was industrial. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, biohazard signage in multiple languages. A side room, a desk, a folder labeled Biotech Solutions, Project Genesis, classified. I opened it. Genesis launched 2019. Objective: hybridized terrestrial DNA with non-native biosamples recovered in 1997 near Tunguska Impact Zone. Specimens: 47 created, 8 stable, 3 escaped containment. I flipped pages with shaking hands. One note stood out, underlined in red. Subject 4, C displays mimicry capabilities, including voice replication and emotional resonance matching. They didn't just build monsters. They taught them to sound like us. When I returned to the tower, Tom was waiting. His face was pale. You went below. I didn't deny it. I had to know. He stared at me a long time, then sat. Then you need to hear the rest. By day 26, sleep was a memory. I hadn't truly rested since day 10. I began hearing things in my head, not voices, but rhythms, like heartbeats echoing in sync with the forest. At first, I thought it was paranoia, sleep deprivation, cabin fever. But then I noticed something worse. I wasn't the only one hearing it. I caught Tom pressing his ear against the tower wall at 3 a.m., eyes wide and glassy. It's below us, he whispered. At 2:46 a.m., I was alone on shift. I logged a cold front moving in when the radio cut to static. Suddenly, I heard footsteps on the steel staircase behind me. Slow, deliberate. I grabbed the emergency flashlight. Tom? Cammy? No response. The footsteps reached the final step and stopped. But when I turned, there was no one there. Nothing. Only a single wet footprint on the floor. It wasn't Tom's or Cammy's. It was Claude. When Cammy arrived the next afternoon, I confronted her. Tell me everything, please. She hesitated, then finally said, it was never about forest protection. She described how Biotech Solutions had used the preserve to conduct illegal biological experiments combining extraterrestrial genetic samples with terrestrial animals to create military-grade hybrids. They called them subjects, not species, she whispered. One of them escaped. Subject 4C. Highly intelligent, aggressive, and worst of all, it mimics human emotion, voice, pain, desperation. You mean it pretends to be people? No, she said. It doesn't pretend. It becomes them. Tom called me over radio just before sunset. Stay inside tonight. Don't talk to anyone but me. If anyone knocks, even if it's me, don't open the door. Not unless we use the code. What's the code? Answer with Pinewood. If I don't say that, it's not me. That night at 10:04 p.m., I heard the voice again. Hey, it's me. Tom, open up. I forgot my key. My stomach dropped. I grabbed the mic. Code word? Silence. Tom, you're making a mistake. The voice changed. Lower, wet, and angry. It slammed the tower door so hard the walls trembled. But it never got in. That's when I realized the forest didn't belong to us. We weren't guarding it. We weren't protecting anything. We were offerings. A steady rotation of living bait to keep Subject 4C occupied. I searched Jane's backup logs again. Buried in the encrypted folders was a disturbing entry. A failed experiment. Test 4C07 shows subject learned not just how to copy voice, but to self-replicate mannerisms. Targets now report hallucinations, emotional confusion, and identity breakdown. In simple terms, it could make you believe it was you. Cammy visited again, but something was wrong. She knocked twice, not once, which was our usual sign. Her smile was wide, too wide. She didn't blink much. I brought you your favorite, those little cookies you like. I froze. I had never told her I liked those. I had never eaten them in front of her. What's the code word, Cammy? She paused. Code word? I slammed the door. Later, the real Cammy arrived with bruises and torn clothes. She had been attacked 2 days earlier, knocked unconscious. Something is trying to take my place, she whispered. Tom finally broke. We sat in the tower as a storm rolled in. Why do we stay? I asked. He stared out at the trees. Because it's already out. We're not guarding it anymore. We're keeping it distracted. Why not burn the forest? Evacuate the site? Because we don't know how many it infected. That sentence stayed with me. We don't know how many. That night, the light returned. But this time, inside the safe zone, blue, pulsing like a living flame, rising from the soil. I called it in. No response. I ran down the tower to get a better look. It moved toward Meslo, deliberate. Then it spoke. You don't belong here. My head throbbed. My nose bled. I blacked out. I woke in the tower, Tom sitting beside me. You passed out for almost 9 hours. He handed me water. It spoke, I said. Tom nodded. They evolve. Every time we send someone here, they get smarter. So why keep sending people? I demanded. Because as long as it's watching us, it's not looking elsewhere. The radio failed completely. Not static, not interference. Silence. No signal to Cammy, no link to the satellites. The emergency beacon light turned red. That had only happened once before, according to a log entry from a missing ranger. The night he vanished. Tom's face went pale when he saw the beacon. It's coming. At 3:11 a.m., the backup radio hissed to life. This is Cammy. I'm outside the gate. I'm not alone. Don't let it in. Don't trust me if I return. Repeat, don't trust. Then a scream, a sound like bones snapping. Silence. We never saw her again. At nightfall, we locked everything. Lights off, blankets over the windows, no talking, just listening. And then, a sound outside. Breathing. Not like an animal, not like a human. It was rhythmic, wet, guttural. Then, footsteps, heavy, unhurried, circling the base of the tower. I gripped the emergency flare gun with trembling hands. Then came the knock. It's me, it said. Cammy, I'm hurt. But I knew. Cammy had never knocked 4 times. And she never called me by name. Please, it said. Let me in. I'm so cold. I didn't move. Then something pressed its face to the glass slit in the steel door. I saw nothing. Not darkness. Nothing. As if the world outside had been deleted. Tom called an extraction team using a backup encrypted channel. But I noticed something. The message was never sent. It was logged, but not transmitted. You knew they cut us off, I said. Tom didn't answer. We're not waiting for rescue, I said. We're not being monitored anymore. He looked at me. No, he said. We're being studied. I stopped trusting myself. Sometimes I'd wake up with dirt on my hands, or cuts I couldn't explain. The door lock was reset once by someone. I began hearing myself speak when I wasn't speaking. You're tired. You're broken. Let go. The voice wasn't mine, but it knew what I was afraid of. I climbed the tower after a short nap. At the top, I froze. There was someone at the window. Me. He turned and looked directly at me. Same face, same clothes. He smiled, and then he vanished. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. I collapsed. Tom finally led me into a secured part of the underground base, deeper than the monitoring room. We entered what he called the Genesis room. Inside were growth pods, large glass cylinders filled with blue fluid. Some were cracked, others still alive. Inside, hybrids, part human, part animal, part something else. Some twitched, some opened their mouths as if screaming, but no sound came out. Each tank was labeled Subject 1A, Subject 2C, Subject 4C active, uncontained. That night, a transmission began broadcasting on every channel. It wasn't words, it was me. My voice looping, "Let me in, let me in, let me in," over and over. I couldn't stop it. I screamed. I smashed the radio. I tore wires out of the wall. It kept going. Through the floor, through the steel. In my head, on the 58th night, the outer tower lights failed. Backup power lasted only 2 minutes. And then, the tower shook. Claws, not scraping, gripping. Tom fired flares out the side hatch. We watched in horror as they lit up something huge, misshapen, dripping. It wasn't invisible anymore. It wasn't hiding. It wanted us to see it. Tom threw a flash grenade. Then everything went white. When I woke up, Tom was gone. The tower door was open. Outside, blood. A single boot. That's all. I locked the door again. Now I was alone. I wasn't here to protect anyone. I wasn't here to guard the forest. I wasn't even here to survive. I was part of a control group, a test for Subject 4C. How long until it becomes me? Something changed after Tom vanished. Every clock in the tower stopped at 3:11 a.m. Digital, analog, even my watch. They all clicked to 3:11 and froze. And every night after that, I heard my own voice whisper, "Time's up." I found an old camcorder deep in storage zone Tom had hidden. Inside, a single tape, a log. Date, 4 years ago. The footage showed someone I didn't recognize sitting where I now sit. "This is my final message," the man says, shaking. "If you're watching this, it means Subject 4C let you live for now. It learns, it studies, but it doesn't kill unless you become predictable." He stops and breathes hard. "Break the rules or die." The video ends with static. The morning of day 68, I noticed it. A section of the natural rock face near the base of the ridge shimmered under heat. I touched it. It rippled. A hologram. I threw a rock at it, passed right through. Behind the illusion, a massive structure, miles wide, honeycombed with lights and walkways. This wasn't a forest. It was a habitat, and I was inside it. I used a stolen badge from Tom's jacket and accessed the entry port. Deep inside, I found a control room filled with displays, audio logs, biometric readings, all focused on one thing: me. Footage of my sleep, my eating habits, my behavior when alone. The tower wasn't just a monitoring station, it was a testing chamber. Subject 4C wasn't being contained. I was. I was never the observer. I was never the guardian. I was the variable. The question wasn't whether I'd survive. It was whether I'd break before they did. One last document, hidden under Archive Protocol Omega. Title, Rule 0. In the event of Subject 4, C reaching behavioral integration with test subject, initiate code fusion. Below that, do not attempt extraction. If subject achieves linguistic empathy plus emotional override, containment is no longer viable. Forest watchers will become new hosts. Then the line that chilled me to the bone. You were never meant to return. That night, it arrived. Subject 4C stood in the tree line. It no longer hid, it no longer imitated. It looked almost human now. Its skin was pale, stretched too tightly. Its eyes mine, but wrong. It stepped forward. Why run from yourself? It sounded like me, moved like me. It didn't attack. It offered a hand. Merge, it said, and you'll never be alone again. I stood on the roof of the tower, flare gun in one hand, Tom's radio in the other. Below, the forest warped and shifted, like a breathing organism. The thing stood there, waiting. If I fired the flare, I might signal someone if anyone was watching. If I climbed down, I might become it. Or maybe I already had. I looked at my hand. It shimmered, flickered, just for a second. Months later, an expedition team recovered fragments from the tower site. The tower itself was burned, empty, but one item survived. A radio log with this final entry. Day 80. Subject displays full behavioral integration with 4C. Emotional override achieved. No resistance recorded. Subject is compliant. Pause. End of test cycle. Begin regeneration. Deploy next ranger. I followed the rules. Then I broke them. And now, I am the rule. The forest was never real. The tower was never protection. You followed the rules. Now, you are the experiment.